Hey everybody, Derek Judd here with Cowboy Criminology. Of course, I am your host, the Cowboy Criminologist. So, I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like there is seems to be a real problem in the law enforcement and legal world. It just seems like you can't go online, you can't turn on the TV or anything without finding law enforcement officers, attorneys, politicians engaged in just some of the shadiest things. So, I was having a hard time sleeping last night, and I found this story pretty much as soon as it went up. But I'm not going to comment on it right now. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to share the video with y'all, and then I want to kind of go back through it and break it down. So, here's the video.
We begin tonight with the terrifying break-in attempt and why a Metro Detroit attorney is accused of the crime. Thank you for joining us for 7 News Detroit at 11. I'm Carolyn Clifford.
And I'm Mike Duffy. Police say that they caught the suspect with disturbing evidence on him. It's alarming to people who live near 12 Mile and Crooks, where a woman was targeted. 7
News Detroit reporter Ruta Ulsanaida is in Royal Oak with how police say the victim's quick action really made a difference.
This story just absolutely sends a shiver down your spine. This 34-year-old Dearborn Heights man was caught allegedly trying to get into the home of a Royal Oak woman wearing latex gloves and a backpack with a loaded handgun, a large knife, rope, and handcuffs inside.
This guy needs help. I mean, more than police help, he needs mental help.
This Royal Oak community on Smith Avenue is absolutely shocked to learn of an alarming attempted home invasion. Residents who have lived here for decades say nothing like this ever happens in this part of town. Locking up the homes used to be optional.
This kind of was a neighborhood where we really didn't do a lot of that, and now we're going to have to do that a little bit more.
Royal Oak police say last Saturday around 1:20 a.m., Levi Smith attempted to break into a woman's home. A quick LinkedIn search shows that he's an attorney here at Anthony Paulovich and Worrall in Dearborn. The woman, a former coworker who he apparently expressed romantic interest in. Police wouldn't elaborate on his history with the woman further, saying this is still an active investigation. What about the fact that this guy was an attorney representing clients here in this, community?
Adds another level of craziness, An attorney supposed to be a respected member of the community, right? Not creepy.
The woman, startled from the sound of him attempting to enter her side door, called police and activated an outdoor panic alarm that spooked him. Police caught him just 2 houses down with disturbing items like rope, a loaded gun, and duct tape. Her quick-thinking actions may have saved her life.
She just did everything right. As soon as she realized that there was something going on, she called 911.
We reached out to the suspect's law firm, who told us in a statement that after finding out about the ordeal, quote, Mr. Levi is no longer employed.
It sounds like she did all the right things. It was his bad intentions from the start.
Smith was arraigned today, facing a $25,000 bond. He'll be back in court next Friday. He is facing charges of felony firearm and attempted home invasion. Could be facing up to 7 years in prison. In Royal Oak, I'm Ruta Ulsanaida, 7 News Detroit.
Okay, so first off, let's all take a moment to think about the quick actions of the potential victim in this case, and the fact that she had the foresight to go through and put out not just an alarm for her home, but an exterior panic alarm that when she hit it, alerted everybody. She was on the phone with 911 after she heard somebody trying to get in through the side door, and she was able to, stay on the phone with 911, and the police, they said they caught him 2 doors down from the house. So that tells me he either tried to hide, or the police just happened to be in the area and caught up to him real quick. All right. So let's back up a little bit. So this woman was somebody known to this Levi Smith. And unrequited love causes people to do, well, sometimes sketchy and suspect things. Usually they don't rise to this level of criminality. But what is the, so she was a former coworker, and we don't know a whole lot about her. It seems like they're going through a lot of steps to try to protect her identity, and rightfully so. But let's take a look. And so this individual is facing a $25,000 bond and up to 7 years in prison. Okay, so obviously they're charging him with felonies. But I want to make an argument, and I want to see if y'all think this holds water. But I think that district attorneys' offices or local police departments need to have a criminologist on staff. And not just somebody who looks at crime trends through a computer model and stuff like that. I'm talking about somebody who actually understands criminal behavior. Okay? Because that would also be helpful in drafting search warrants. It would be helpful in kind of guiding the investigation. Because with an investigation like this, you have one chance to go through, collect the evidence you need, find the documentation you need before everything gets destroyed. But if you know where the investigation needs to go from Jump Street, you're already ahead of the curve. So when the man showed up at her home, he was wearing latex gloves. Okay. Now, behaviorally, there's a lot of good stuff to work with here. Okay. Because we're what, 3.5, almost 4 years out of the pandemic. So saying that he was, just wearing PPE to try to protect himself, that's not really going to fly right now. Okay. So when we're looking at how he was found, what we're looking at is his behavior, and his behavior is going to tell you the intent. Okay. So latex gloves. All right. Obviously a forensic countermeasure to keep from leaving fingerprints. All right. We've all seen cop movies and cop shows, and we know the drill. All right, the bad guy always wears fingerprints. Beyond that, how he was dressed, and I think they said he was dressed all in black, creeping around at night, kind of an MO. But that right there, the wearing the backpack, you can't really say it's self-defense. The gun and the knife by themselves, he might have had argument. But you look at how he's dressed, where he's at, his unrequited feelings for this young lady. All of these things are starting to show that none of his intentions were based on self-preservation or keeping her safe. Okay. The other thing is he tried to enter through a side door. Okay. Now I know some places, depending on how the house is set up, entering through a side door, or a lot of times, more informally, people come to the back door of a home, knock on the door because it's more friendly. It's actually not uncommon in the Midwest and in the South for that to be the case. But to go to a side door specifically, and for this woman to have heard that, recognized something was wrong, called 911, and then turned on her alarm, I have to wonder, with the prior existing relationship, and by relationship, I'm not suggesting any type of consensual romantic involvement. I'm just, time and space. These two were not strangers to each other. Okay. But in that time and space, something about this guy's behavior scared her to the point where she felt that she had to take certain measures. Now, one of my first questions for her would be, do you know this individual? Okay. How do you know this individual? And my biggest question for her is going to be, is he the reason you have this alarm system set up? Is this the first time he's been over to your house? Has he tried to get into your house before? And those are going to be my really big questions for her. Everything else is detail and fine tuning, which is good. You absolutely need that stuff. The devil is always in the details. But what I'm specifically trying to understand is I'm trying to understand the relationship that exists, because as an officer or as a prosecutor, what I want to get through to the jury is how dangerous this individual is. Okay. And so part of doing that is going to be letting them know that this was an escalating behavior that with the potential for violence. Okay. Like I said, the gun and knife in the backpack, if he didn't have the gloves on, you might have some type of argument for self-defense. I mean, it's pretty flimsy at best, but it's there. Defendants have walked for considerably less. But look at the other things that are in the backpack: handcuffs, rope, duct tape, a knife, a large knife as it was described, and a handgun. Okay, no burglary tools, which I find interesting, and I'll get to that here in just a second. But if y'all have followed me on Serial Killer Saturdays, you would know that in law enforcement prevalence as what's known as a rape kit. And I'm not trying to be indelicate, and I'm also not trying to be politically correct. It is what it is. It is specifically set up with a specific intention for a specific act. Okay? All of those things together, the latex gloves, the black, the trying to enter a side door late at night, all of those things tell me, had he been able to gain successful entrance into the home, this whole story would have ended completely differently. Okay? The other reason I think a criminologist would be helpful in this case, as far as writing search warrants, is I want to know who he follows on social media, what images he searches on the internet. I want to know what websites he visits, how often he visits. I want to know what he's searching for. Specifically, I'm looking for kidnapping, abduction. I'm looking for one thing big in this case is staged crime scene. Okay. Staged crime scenes are common among people who know each other, because if you don't know somebody, you have no reason to stage a crime scene. All right. There's no reason for a burglar or a home invader to make it look like anything other than what it is, because the whole reason they're in the house is to take your stuff. Okay. So I would almost expect to see in his search results something to the effect of how to disguise a murder as a suicide, as a home invasion, as whatever. Okay. Those are all going to be things that I'm going to want to see, and I'm going to want to clone all of his electronic devices: home computer, work computer, cell phone, smartwatch. I'm also going to want the GPS data, not only from his phone, but I'm going to want it from his car too. I want to figure out how often this individual is in this neighborhood, particularly on this street, because that's going to tell me, based on where he lives, is there any other possible reason that he could be there? Okay. I always told my officers when I was training them, think like a defense attorney, talk to the jury. And what I mean by that is think of anything the defense could use to undermine your case, and either address it or get out in front of it. And being able to explain that during your investigation, you found that this individual had absolutely zero reason to be in a particular neighborhood pretty much torpedoes that whole line of questioning. Okay. Other things I'm going to look for is 34 seems a little on the older side for this type of behavior to manifest itself. But, most violent serial offenders are between the ages of 25 and 35, white males. So, do we have outliers? Yeah, absolutely. And like I said in my last video, you have to let your profile be flexible enough to grow and change with the investigation, because otherwise, in the prevalence of Sherlock Holmes, you're twisting theories to suit your facts, or you're twisting facts to suit your theories, and not setting up your theories that fit the facts. Okay. So I'm also going to want to know about prior relationships. How would the women he's been in past relationships describe him? Is his lovemaking gentle? Is he rough? Did he take liberties that made them feel uncomfortable? Did he talk to them or about them in a derogatory manner? Was he interested in pushing limits beyond what they were comfortable with? Why did the relationship fall apart? And in what I'm doing in that is I'm trying to set up, between the internet searches and his real world activities, I'm trying to figure out what the fantasy was and what portion, or what part this woman played in the fantasy. And that's not saying that she encouraged him or did anything wrong or anything. It's just, for whatever reason, he developed some kind of attraction, fixation, whatever you want to call it. He developed that towards this woman. And as a criminologist, I want to know why. And so who he follows on social media can be very helpful. Okay. So for an example, let me give you two scenarios. You've got a skinny weakling, never seen the inside of a gym and never taken a martial arts class in his entire life, but he follows a bunch of martial arts channels. He follows a whole bunch of health and fitness channels, but he also follows channels where, the guys are talking about what it really means to be a man, and, how to be a better man, and not, how to be a king, and all, whatever the new terms are. Okay. That's going to tell you how this individual feels about himself. On the other side of that, you have somebody with a rigorous health and fitness regimen that includes mixed martial arts, and you watch their videos, and their stuff is more about the influencers he follows are more about how you can be your better self, how you can be your best self-improvement, whether that's financial, developing a better mindset, what it is. One would suggest that somebody is truly either an alpha or sigma male, and that this other guy is nothing but a beta male. Okay. Remember, we're trying to understand the behavior, and we're trying to contextualize it for people who do not understand criminal behavior, and we're trying to show how all of these different things link up. Okay. I'm also going to look for, as Miss Mack pointed out in the Farron Ward Drip Serial Killer Saturday, killers very seldomly is the first victim the first one found, and that there's usually somebody who's not connected. And I totally I agree with that to a point, except when you're talking about a mixed type offender. With a mixed type offender, which I believe this guy is, and I think that's how most violent serial predators start out, is because they have enough idea of the fantasy that they want to implement, but they don't necessarily have the criminal sophistication or know how to pull it off. And so that kind of mixed dichotomy, if this is his first criminal act, highly doubtful with the amount of planning that went into this, but let's just for argument's sake say it is. He is definitely a mixed type offender. Another thing that I would expect to see in his search history would be lockpicking, defeating alarms, things like that, searches like that. But if we're going to play the numbers, which when you're profiling, I do recommend you do until you have evidence to the contrary. But in playing the numbers, I would look at burglaries that have taken place near his current and past addresses. And I would go back and I would revisit what was stolen from those. Or maybe I'd go back and I would find different homes and canvassing the neighborhood. One of the questions that I would ask is, have you ever come back from being out of the house and things were moved around? And you didn't move it, nobody in the house moved it. Has that ever happened? Did you ever think that somebody in the neighborhood was responsible? If so, who? Okay. And you're trying to develop a witness pool that can testify that this type of behavior would not be out of character for this individual. And the last thing I'm going to say about this is the other thing I'm going to look for is when I'm doing the search warrant is I'm going to look for prescription medication to treat mental health issues. Okay. What the medication is will tell you a lot about what their diagnosis is. And more importantly than above and beyond all that is I want to know, when was this prescription first issued? When was it first refilled? Based on the number of pills that are there, is he med compliant? Is he not med compliant? Another search engine that I'd look for is symptomology of a certain type of mental illness. With this individual being a lawyer, and with the planning that he did put into it, well, like I said, there's not a whole lot of criminal sophistication here. So if this is his first foray into this type of behavior, it would make a lot of sense. But he does possess enough wherewithal, I think, to set up a defense in case he got caught. Okay. Very difficult to try to explain the all black, the rubber gloves, everything inside the backpack. But if he has a mental health diagnosis, that could affect how things go. And if you know to look for that up front, if you know to look for any of these things up front in your investigation, you run a better chance of impressing upon a jury and impressing upon a judge at sentencing that this is a dangerous individual. And yes, we're only supposed to judge him in the context of the unlawful carrying of a handgun and, the attempted home invasion. But we need to look at this person as a whole, and we need to show that this is an escalating behavior and that he needs to be locked away to protect society. So anyway, that's my spin on that whole thing. I got to admit, so many things about just that short, not even 3-minute news clip was very unsettling to me. Y'all, please let me know what you think about it in the comments section. Please like, subscribe, and share on your favorite social media platforms. I'm Derek Judd, the Cowboy Criminologist for Cowboy Criminology. Y'all take care.